If you've ever gone out foraging and thought, I wish I had a better way of harvesting this, or I really could have done with an easier way of carrying that home, then you've stumbled across the perfect video, because today I'm going to show you my personal foraging kit, some of the year-round essentials, plus some of the tools that I use for winter and spring as well. I'll show you what I use everything for and why it's useful too. Some of these tools are handy for mushrooms, other for wild greens or medicinal plants, and some are just fun tools to help you get the most out of each foraging walk. So let's start with the classic basket. To be honest, it's not something that I tend to use very much. It is beautiful and it makes for some pretty Instagram photos, but to be honest, it's pretty impractical. It's very rigid and it's bulky and it's cumbersome as well. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've dropped a basket, and one of the worst ones was when I was scrambling up the side of the hill to collect penny bomb mushrooms, and I dropped my basket and I just had to watch them all roll down the hill, hit stumps on the way and just smash. So that was a pretty emotional afternoon. So I don't tend to actually use baskets all too much, unless I'm going on, you know, like a short trip where I'm pretty sure that what I'm looking to harvest is going to be there, you know, like guaranteed spots sort of thing. And then I'll take a basket with me if it's just a short walk. But yeah, these things are beautiful and they're great for, you know, showing off your produce at the end of an afternoon. So I usually actually harvest most of my stuff in bags or mesh bags and then transfer them to the basket just to show them off a bit at the end. But to be honest, yeah, they are pretty cumbersome. One of my favourite types of baskets is this closed lid one. So yeah, it just means that it stops prying eyes when you're walking around the woodland. You usually get people quite curious what you're harvesting. And if you're going around collecting your prize mushrooms like your chanterelles or something like that, then you don't always want people to know what's in your basket. So these lidded ones are perfect for that. You get lovely wide flat baskets, which are great for harvesting more delicate fruits like your plums or your smaller mushrooms that you don't want to get crushed. But I'll show you those in the summer video, because I don't tend to use those at the moment. What are my ducks quacking at? You guys okay? But yeah, these closed lid ones are perfect for a little bit more privacy, and these more deep structured ones are great for things like your root vegetables at this time of year. So inside my baskets I tend to keep these mesh bags, and these are really useful for all sorts of things. I've actually got some turkey tail in here from the other day that I need to get out and dry properly. But these mesh bags are perfect. They're very porous, so they breathe nicely, and they're just good for keeping things separate as well. If you're going foraging and you've got quite a lot of things, sometimes you don't want your basket to be just like a mishmash of lots of different species and different types of mushrooms. So you can use these mesh bags to separate your produce, and yeah, these are really handy. You can pick them up from any supermarket for like 30p or something like that. But yeah, these are great. I've got loads of different types of mesh baskets that I just keep in here, and I always carry a plastic bag as well, or a dry sack, and that either keeps some of my produce dry that I don't want to get wet if it rains, or it helps to separate the wet produce from the drier stuff in your basket as well. So that's what I tend to keep inside my baskets when I'm out foraging. So as well as mesh bags, I usually keep a couple of containers as well, depending on the season and what I'm going to be harvesting. But this time of year I've usually always got a closed pot with a lid, and that's for collecting resin as well, because that's very sticky and I don't want that kind of falling out and getting everything else real sticky. So I tend to have a couple of different types of containers that I take with me as well. As well as these containers, I've always got little metal tins that I use to harvest seeds in the autumn and winter time as well, so they're perfect for that. But these plastic tubs are really great for harvesting your resin in. And a butter knife as well. This is great for harvesting resin. This is one that we had for my kitchen that's bent a little bit, so it's really great for kind of like picking up underneath the resin and cracking it off. And it just minimises damage to the tree if you're using something a little bit blunter. So this time of year I like to take with me a hori knife if I know that I'm going to be harvesting root vegetables like burdock or dandelion. And a hori knife is awesome. It's like a Japanese gardening knife. It's got measurements on it as well, and this is perfect because things like pig nuts grow a few inches down, so it's really great for kind of judging where they might be. It's got a serrated edge on one side and then a clean cut side on the other, so it's also great for cutting through brambles and things like that as well. Another tool that I've often got in my backpack this time of year is a folding pocket saw, and I use this for harvesting branches and twigs and my crump bark and birch. It's really good. It goes through like butter, even though it's a little bit rusted now. I need to take better care of my tools. But yeah, this pocket knife, or pocket saw rather, is really handy. Got a little mini axe or hatchet or whatever you call them. This is really awesome just for chaga really. I don't tend to use it for anything else. Awesome for hacking off chaga. So these are tools that you kind of take with you when you know you're going to be going out looking for particular things, you know. Pruning shears as well, just for clean cuts on your twigs and your shrubs. And like I say, all of these tools here are kind of things that I use when I know that I'm going to be going out harvesting certain things. You know, it's not something that I just take out with me in a huge backpack every single time I go foraging. But if I know that I'm going to be harvesting root crops, I'll take my hori knife. If I know that I'm going to be harvesting or pruning twigs or firewood or any kind of like shrubs for medicine, then I can take my pruners or my saws, depending on how much I'm thinking about harvesting. And yeah, axe for my chaga. Little mini tool, to be honest, I actually take this out with me quite a lot. It's really, really useful. In the autumn I use it for cracking nuts, but it's got a little knife on it as well as a saw, so it's got kind of like a mini version of all of the tools that I'll need. So I do tend to keep this in my backpack pretty much all of the time. It's just a little mountain warehouse that I got for Christmas one year. And I got some hardware and gloves, and I use these for when I'm harvesting brambles or things for cordage, you know, or really digging down deep and getting those burdock roots out, just so I'm not getting too mucky. But yeah, hardware and gloves are really, really handy to keep hold of. I also keep a bit of cordage as well, and this isn't necessary, obviously you can make cordage when you're out, but it's also awesome just for keeping on you when you just want to tie something together quite quickly, bundling up herbs and things like that. So to be honest, I've been moving away from baskets lately. I'll show you what I do tend to use and what I keep in it. Right, so if I'm just going out for a general forage, I'll just take a foraging bag with me. And it's awesome because it's not as cumbersome as a basket, and it just means that you can be hands-free because you can just like pop it over your shoulder. So in here, this is just stuff that I take with me on every single foraging walk. And then I'll just pop in the appropriate tool for whatever I'm, you know, like thinking that I'm going to get. But in here I just keep like a little mini tarp, just for a little bit of shelter. But I usually actually mostly use this for laying out my produce at the end of a foraging session to see what I've got. I keep my flask with me when it's cold, just to keep with hot water, and then I just pop in whatever I can find, whether it's spruce needles, pine needles, primrose, anything like that. And actually this is my most used item. I take this with me wherever I go, even if I haven't got my foraging bag, like this comes with me in my back pocket. It's just a kneeling pad, like a foldable kneeling pad. But I mean, it's an absolute lifesaver. I use it everywhere I go, whether it's just like sitting on the floor or kneeling down inspecting stuff or harvesting root crops. I use it absolutely everywhere. After 20 years of skateboarding, my knees definitely feel it these days. So this bag is actually awesome. This is my favourite foraging bag, and I helped design this with Chris, the Forage Bag Co. And it's perfect. It's like a leather bag made out of recycled leather offcuts, and the bottom is made out of a jute canvas. So it's perfect for mushrooms. It's got a really nice shape, so it's nice and sturdy, and it doesn't crush your mushrooms like a tote bag would do. It actually still helps the spores release and keeps the airflow in your produce, so it doesn't get all sweaty and mushy. So this is my favourite bag, and it's got loads of little compartments. This is where I keep my UV torch. A UV light is actually really handy for looking at loads of different mushrooms and wildflowers and nighttime foraging as well. So I've pretty much always got a little UV torch with me, whether it's a torch or my foraging knife in there. I also keep a little folding pocket knife as well, and this is just a little open old knife that I've lost the tip on, actually been a bit rough with it, and this is just perfect for clean cuts on plants or trimming mushrooms before you put them in your basket. So do be careful when you're carrying knives. Check your local laws. Obviously I wouldn't go and carry all of my knives or tools like this in public places, but out in the woods is totally fine. I use all of my stuff for work, so it's classed as a reasonable excuse. But yeah, do check your local laws before you start taking things like this out and about with you. This little pocket here is where I keep little books or notepads, and I'm trying to learn my birds better at the moment. I'm not very good at birds, so this is where I keep my little bird book, and also my jeweler's loop as well. So this is another awesome item for taking a bit of a closer look at certain types of mushrooms and wildflowers. This one's got a little light on it, a UV light and a regular light. So yeah, you can proper get a good look at your pores on the underside of your mushrooms, or the gill attachments, or even kind of like the little tiny hairs that you find on stems or the edges of leaves sometimes, to help you differentiate between species. So a jeweler's loupe by any means is not an essential item, but it's a really fun one to have, just to get a bit of a closer look at the plants and mushrooms that you're foraging. And if you are new to foraging, then it is worth picking up a guidebook as well, just so you feel a little bit more comfortable going out on your day-to-day walks. This is my book, The Forager's Almanac, and it's a month-by-month foraging identification book to all of the different wild plants and fungi that you can find in the UK and in North America as well, lots of them. So it's all set out month by month, so it's super easy to find out what you want to be harvesting and when. And each month is full of lots and lots of different plants and fungi that you can find, and some recipes as well to keep you busy. It's got a toxic section at the beginning, a really thorough one, just to make sure that you are comfortable with what you're foraging for. So it's a really lovely little guidebook, and if you are a beginner, then it is definitely worth taking something like that with you. At the very least, if you're not going to be harvesting, taking lots of photos, and then you can reference it once you get back home. So I'll leave a link in the description for my foraging book and these bags as well. So that is my Forager's Toolkit. I'd love to know what you keep in yours, so let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.